"You're late," my mom remarked, emerging onto the porch with her suitcase in tow. As I cast my eyes toward the dashboard, the clock caught my attention. The clock struck 6:02 a.m. "2 minutes late, Mom," I said, managing a smile. As I stepped out of the car to assist with the luggage, my eyes caught sight of my sister Lauren making her way out of the house, suitcase in hand. My smile became rigid. "What's happening here?" I inquired, making an effort to maintain a calm tone. My mom turned to me, her expression unnaturally bright given the circumstances. "Oh, Violet, we've made the choice to have Lauren join us instead of you. She has been under a lot of stress recently, and this trip is exactly what she needs." My chest felt a sudden constriction. "Rather than me?" "Mom, this has been in the works for years. I covered all the expenses." With a dismissive wave of her hand, she treated my comment as if it were nothing of importance. "We truly appreciate it, darling, but you always put in so much effort. Another adventure awaits you in the future. Lauren is in need of this at this very moment." Lauren showed no signs of remorse whatsoever. With a sly smirk, she casually shifted her weight onto one hip. "Thanks for understanding, sis," she said, her voice laced with insincerity. I gazed at the two of them, my heart racing in my chest. Moments later, my dad emerged, shuffling slightly as he handed me his suitcase, deliberately avoiding eye contact. "This is absolutely unbelievable," I exclaimed, my voice trembling with emotion. "This was meant to be our adventure, a moment for me to share with you." "Indeed, it remains so," my mom remarked with a cheerful smile. "Just with Lauren instead. Let's not blow this out of proportion, Violet. Your sister definitely deserves some time to unwind." "Hi there. I'm Violet, and for the last 2 years, I've been putting in extra hours and saving every single penny to create an unforgettable trip for my parents. Every aspect of the journey was meticulously crafted, from flights and luxury hotels to guided tours, right down to the final dinner reservation." As I stood in my parents' driveway, observing my sister sliding into the back seat of my car, a revelation struck me, one that I had been evading for years. No matter the amount of effort I invested, it made no difference. In their eyes, Lauren would forever take precedence. I tightened my jaw, holding back the biting response that lingered just at the edge of my words. With a strained smile, I reluctantly opened the trunk. "Let's get going then," I said, my voice devoid of any inflection. If they chose to prioritize her over me, that's their decision. They can go ahead with her. However, I had no intention of allowing them to savor it. The journey to the airport was filled with an almost unbearable silence, broken only by Lauren's relentless stream of conversation. "Wow, Mom, have you checked out that TikTok about Paris? I'm super excited to hit the shops there. Do you believe we'll have enough time for that, or will the tours consume the entire day?" With my hands firmly clutching the steering wheel, I focused intently on the road ahead, battling the urge to speak. My mom let out a gentle chuckle. "Absolutely, we'll have plenty of time. We'll uncover the solution when we arrive at that point." I accidentally bit the inside of my cheek. As we arrive at our destination, it was as if they were completely oblivious to the fact that I no longer belonged to that group. At one moment, my dad let out a deliberate cough. "We appreciate you giving us a ride, Violet. It's likely that this feels strange." I caught a glimpse of him in the rearview mirror. "Strange? That's a fascinating perspective, Dad." There was no response from him. He shifted in his seat, a clear sign of discomfort, likely regretting his words. Lauren leaned forward from the back seat, her voice sharp and piercing. "You're not upset, are you? This is truly generous of you to allow me to leave. This is something I could never have managed to afford by myself." I tightened my jaw and managed a strained smile. "Absolutely, Lauren. Have a fantastic journey." As we arrived at the airport drop-off zone, my patience was stretched to its limits. As I assisted in unloading their luggage, my mom wrapped her arms around me in a warm embrace. "Thank you for your understanding, my dear. This holds significant importance for us, as well as for Lauren." I nodded with a sense of rigidity. "Absolutely, Mom." With a radiant smile, Lauren rolled her suitcase toward the entrance. "Thank you, Violet. You're absolutely the best. I stood there, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within me as I watched them fade into the terminal, my chest constricted by a mix of anger and hurt. The journey home unfolded in a haze. The conversation echoed in my mind, each word slicing deeper than the one before. This holds significant importance for Lauren. You're not upset, are you? You're consistently putting in so much effort. I pulled into my driveway and remained in the car for a few moments, my hands tightly clutching the steering wheel, turning my knuckles a stark white. Without hesitation, I strode into the house, retrieved my laptop, and signed into every travel account I had utilized to arrange the trip. Looking to book a hotel? Unfortunately, it's been canceled. Exploring new destinations? Your request has been successfully processed for a refund. Upgrading your airline experience? Negative. As I gazed at the confirmation emails accumulating in my inbox, a sense of relief began to wash over me, easing the tightness in my chest. So, they chose Lauren over me? All right. However, they certainly wouldn't be indulging in luxurious five-star accommodations or relishing exclusive tours at my expense. As I shut my laptop, a wave of satisfaction washed over me. They had the opportunity to clarify their situation to the front desk staff in Paris. I had finally reached my limit. I was no longer going to be their doormat. The moment their flight touched down, the calls began pouring in. As I unpacked my suitcase, the one I had meticulously packed for a trip that was now lost to me, my phone buzzed incessantly. It struck me as quite ironic as I hung up my dresses and carefully arranged my shoes back on the shelf. The buzzing persisted, saturating the room with its unyielding vibration. With a deep breath, I reached for the phone, my eyes scanning the screen. My mom's name lit up the screen, along with a flurry of missed calls and texts. As I unlocked the phone, I began to scroll through the messages, each one revealing a snippet of conversation waiting to be explored. Violet, can you tell us what's happening? It appears that the hotel is not allowing us to check in at this time. It appears that the reservation is not present. Make sure to give me a call right away. Violet, this is not amusing. It's time to address this issue immediately. A laugh slipped out before I had the chance to hold it back. Could you please correct this? Did they honestly believe I would come rushing in to save the day after everything they had done? The phone buzzed once more, this time displaying a call from Lauren. I allowed it to ring, and soon enough, she left a voicemail. Violet, this is just so petty, she snapped, her voice oozing with entitlement. We're in this situation because of you. It's time to reach out to the hotel and get that sorted out. At this moment, with a sigh, I rolled my eyes and swiftly deleted the voicemail, not bothering to hear another word. For years, I had taken on the role of their problem solver, the one who effortlessly navigated through every blunder and filled in every gap. That's a thing of the past. Ultimately, I made the choice to respond, if only to put an end to the relentless stream of calls. As soon as I picked up, my mom's voice crashed over me like a tidal wave of anger. Violet, what have you done? The hotel has informed us that the reservation has been canceled and all tours are no longer booked. I allowed her to express her frustrations for a brief moment, then responded with a sense of calm, saying, I canceled them. A long, stunned silence filled the air before she hissed, Why would you do that? Oh, I don't know, I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Perhaps it's because you chose to bring Lauren along on my trip. You're fortunate. I took the time to drive you to the airport. We believed you would get it, she retorted. What is there to understand? I inquired, my tone elevating. All those years of saving and planning seemed to fade away when Lauren realized she just needed a break. So, all my hard work was for nothing to you? Hey, Mom, I just don't get it, and honestly, I'm not really interested. I ended the call abruptly, silencing her before she could say a word, and switched off my phone, flinging it onto the couch. The ensuing silence was pure bliss, allowing me to finally catch my breath once more. If they chose to prioritize Lauren, so be it. However, they were more than capable of navigating the remainder of the journey on their own. Just one day passed in silence. As dawn broke, my phone erupted with a flurry of calls and messages. Initially, I chose to overlook them. After a full day dedicated to tidying up the house and tackling my work, I found myself succumbing to curiosity as the evening approached. I unlocked my phone, preparing for the deluge of messages that awaited me. Violet, my mom, you've crossed the line. Your sister is crying, and your father is absolutely livid. Unfortunately, we are unable to access any of the hotels you reserved. Lauren says you're behaving immaturely. I'm not sure why this is being blown out of proportion. Come on, let's get this fixed already. And finally, a message from my dad. We need to talk. This doesn't seem correct. I place the phone down, a shake of my head following suit. For years, I took on the role of the fixer, ensuring that everyone around me felt comfortable and happy. Having taken a step back, they found themselves at a loss for how to proceed. I poured myself a cup of tea and settled at the kitchen table, allowing the anger to simmer within me. Can you believe they actually think it's my responsibility to tidy up after them? Can you believe they have the audacity to make it seem like I was the one at fault? Moments later, the next call came in, and this time, I picked up. Violet, my mom called out sharply before I had a chance to speak. This has lost its humor. It seems we've found ourselves stranded. Can you even imagine how embarrassing the situation is? I savored a leisurely sip of my tea. Awkward moment? Do you really believe this is embarrassing? Imagine dedicating years to saving, meticulously planning every detail, only to find out that you're excluded from the very trip you financed. Stop being dramatic, she snapped. Lauren truly required this more than you do. And now she can figure it out, I stated with conviction. Your choice is made, Mom. You chose to take Lauren over me? All right, but don't count on me to pay for her getaway. We're family, she whispered with a fierce intensity. We simply don't treat one another this way. I released a cynical chuckle. Isn't it amusing? I was just pondering that very thought. Lauren's voice echoed from the background, pleading, Mom, just hang up on her. She's being impossible. That was the breaking point. Enjoy your trip, I said, my tone as cold as ice. Hold on. It seems you can't, since this isn't your journey. It belonged to me, and now it belongs to no one. Farewell. I ended the call before she had a chance to reply and switched my phone off once more. Throughout the remainder of the evening, a peculiar blend of anger and relief washed over me. Frustration surged through me for being placed in this situation, yet a wave of relief washed over me for finally asserting my own voice. They could label me as dramatic all they wished. For the very first time in my life, I stood my ground and refused to let them take advantage of me. In the days that followed, a serene stillness enveloped everything. With my phone switched off, I finally found the clarity I needed, liberated from the relentless onslaught of guilt and blame. This morning, I found myself on my back porch, savoring a cup of coffee and relishing the tranquility I had long desired. Afternoons transformed into a whirlwind of productivity as I dove into those small projects I had long neglected. Each task served as a reminder of my own capabilities, shining through the haze of their relentless demands. However, as the third day rolled around, my curiosity began to take control. As I powered my phone back on, I was greeted by the sight of more than a dozen voicemails eagerly awaiting my attention. The initial messages came from my mom, her tone becoming more frantic with every single one. Violet, it's crucial that you return my call immediately. This has escalated beyond control. It's hard to wrap my head around the fact that this is happening. You have brought us great humiliation. We are your guardians. How could you possibly treat us like this? Then arrived Lauren's messages, brimming with the same air of entitlement she'd consistently displayed. This is incredibly trivial, even for you. Everything is being ruined. Come on, Violet, just get it done. And at last, my dad's voice emerged, softer yet just as sharp. Violet, I find myself perplexed by the changes you've undergone. Please give us a call back so we can resolve this issue together. With a moment of hesitation, I prepared to listen to the final voicemail, a lengthy message from my mom. Her voice lowered, carrying a hint of frustration and weariness. Violet, she started, we find ourselves back at the airport once again. The journey has been completely spoiled, and I trust you're feeling quite pleased with your actions. Your sister is heartbroken, and as for your father and me, we are feeling a level of disappointment that is hard to put into words. Feel free to reach out when you're prepared to have a conversation." I went ahead and deleted the voicemails without sending a response. I found myself unprepared to engage in conversation, and truthfully, I questioned whether I would ever reach that point. This was not just a singular error. After years of prioritizing Lauren, they expected me to just accept it all with a smile. As the hours ticked by, I couldn't help but think back on all those moments when I was brushed aside or ignored. Each holiday where Lauren's desires shaped the agenda, every family get-together where my achievements were merely an afterthought. This journey marked the tipping point, yet the fissures had been developing over many years. That evening, Grace made a surprise visit, bringing along 2 cups of coffee and an unmistakable glimmer of curiosity in her eyes. "I heard about what happened," she said, placing the coffee on the table. "I received a call."
From your mom yesterday.
Absolutely, she had. My mom was a master at gathering support whenever she aimed to nudge me into submission. "So what happens next?" I inquired, lifting my drink to my lips. Grace shrugged, a mischievous smile spreading across her face. "I mentioned that you were likely occupied and would reach out to her when the time was right." I chuckled, shaking my head in disbelief. "You're simply the greatest." "No, you're the best," she said, her tone shifting to one of earnestness. "Because you finally took a stand for yourself. I understand just how challenging that can be, Violet. Resist the pull that tries to bring you down." Her words lingered in my mind long after she had departed. Indeed, Grace was correct. I had devoted far too much time trying to satisfy individuals who appeared indifferent to my endeavors. The moment had arrived to shatter that cycle, once and for all. As the weekend approached, an unusual sense of clarity washed over me. The anger lingered, bubbling just beneath the surface. Yet it was accompanied by a sensation I hadn't experienced in years.
Liberty.
Liberation from their unceasing demands. Breaking free from the role of the family's problem solver. At last, the opportunity to embrace life on my own terms. However, as anticipated, the silence was short-lived. On a Sunday afternoon, I received a call that I chose to pick up. This time it was my father. "Violet," he started, his voice laden with exhaustion. "Your mother requested that I give you a call. She believes that you will pay attention to what I have to say." "Go on," I urged, reclining in my chair. He released a deep sigh. "All right, let's be real here. Things have spiraled completely out of control. Your mom is feeling upset, Lauren is absolutely furious, and, quite frankly, it's just a complete mess. But you have the potential to rise above this." I tensed, his words sparking a new surge of fury within me. "Better than what, Dad? Defending my own interests? Not going to allow you to take advantage of me once more." "That's not what I meant," he replied in a hurry. "You've consistently been the voice of reason, the individual who holds it all in place. This isn't your usual self." A brief, bitter laugh escaped me. "Indeed, that's not typical of my behavior. I'm not going out of my way to tidy up your situation." He paused, and for a brief moment it seemed like he might actually understand my perspective. But then he remarked, "You're penalizing the entire family for a single choice. Is that truly just? Is that fair?" I reiterated, my voice escalating in intensity. "Let's dive into the topic of fairness, shall we? Do you think it was fair when you and Mom decided I wasn't important enough to be included in the trip I had planned? Did it really seem fair to you when you chose to replace me with Lauren, as if I didn't matter at all?" "That's not what we were trying to do," he stated, his tone now taking on a defensive edge. "We believed Lauren could benefit from it more." "Of course you did," I retorted sharply. "There's a constant belief that she requires more. Increased focus. Additional assistance. More of all things. It seems I'm always the one who has to make sacrifices for her. That's a thing of the past." The stillness on the other end of the line was overwhelming. At last, he remarked, "I'm not sure what you expect me to say." "I don't need you to say anything," I replied, my voice unwavering. "It's time for you to realize that I'm no longer willing to be the one who gets overlooked. From this moment forward, I take the lead. Violet, farewell, Father. I concluded the call and placed the phone down, my hands shaking with tension. Throughout the remainder of the day, I allowed myself to experience every emotion: frustration, sorrow, liberation. Though the journey was challenging, it seemed to mark the beginning of an exciting new chapter. I had stepped away from my role as the family's fixer, and I had no intention of returning to it. They had the ability to sort out their own problems. As my parents and Lauren made their way back, I found myself eagerly waiting for them at their home. As I settled into their driveway, coffee in hand, a sense of unexpected calm washed over me while I observed their taxi arriving. As they emerged, pulling their suitcases along, their expressions revealed a blend of fatigue and annoyance. It was Lauren who broke the silence first. "Well, I trust you're feeling satisfied, Violet." I lifted an eyebrow, remaining comfortably settled on the porch swing. "What's there to be happy about? Our trip was a complete disaster." My mom snapped, her hand waving dismissively as if trying to brush the entire experience away. For an entire week, we found ourselves in rundown hotels, dining on subpar meals, all because our budgets simply wouldn't allow for anything better. "And let's not even begin to discuss the tours," Lauren interjected, folding her arms. "Oh, hold on a second. There actually weren't any." Imagine the sheer embarrassment of arriving only to be informed that there was no reservation made. I took another sip of coffee, allowing their complaints to flow around me like a gentle tide. "That sounds tough," I finally remarked, my tone steady. "But you wanted to take Lauren, don't forget? It's clear that you all enjoyed some wonderful moments together." "That's not the point," my mom retorted, her voice escalating. "It was clear from the start that we were not in a position to cover all the expenses you envisioned. You positioned us for failure." I rose to my feet, placing my mug gently on the small table beside me. "No, Mom, I didn't arrange anything for you. A trip has been meticulously planned for the three of us. A unique treasure I had been holding onto for years. You all made the choice to exclude me right at the final moment." My dad finally spoke up, his voice softer, yet still dripping with accusation. "There was no need to cancel everything, Violet. That was absolutely intense." "Was it really?" I inquired, arms crossed. "What's the point of paying for a trip I wasn't even invited to? If Lauren really needed it that much, you all should have organized it yourselves. Consider yourself fortunate that I chose not to cancel the return flight." Lauren let out an exasperated sigh, her eyes rolling dramatically. "Oh, the drama is real. It's merely money, Violet. And you're so entitled," I retorted, my patience finally reaching its breaking point. "Can you even begin to comprehend the amount of effort and dedication that went into organizing that trip? Or do you simply believe that things will just materialize for you because someone else is handling it?" They stood there, momentarily frozen in disbelief. "For years, I've taken on the role of the responsible one," I continued, my voice unwavering yet assertive. "The individual who repairs, organizes, and ensures everything operates seamlessly, while you have taken it all for granted for just as long. That's not fair." My mom began to speak, but I raised my hand to halt her. "No, Mom. What's truly unfair is the way you treated me. You picked Lauren instead of me, just like you always do. I decided it was time to stop being your doormat. So you didn't want me to join the trip?
All right.
However, you won't be able to reap the rewards of my efforts without my involvement." I picked up my bag from the porch swing and prepared to head out. "It's great to see you back safe and sound. However, don't anticipate a return to the past. I've reached my limit." As I made my way to my car, I could hear their voices calling out to me from behind. Their voices carried a blend of frustration and remorse. Yet, I chose not to glance back. The journey back from my parents' house was enveloped in an unexpected sense of tranquility. For years, each visit had taken a toll on my emotions. However, this time, I experienced a sense of lightness. I had finally expressed all the thoughts and feelings I had been keeping inside. And for once, I felt completely at ease about how they would respond. Upon returning home, I brewed a steaming cup of tea and settled onto the couch, my mind swirling with thoughts of the confrontation I had just experienced. They were convinced I would crumble, that I'd surrender just like I always do. Yet, witnessing their astonished expressions as I turned to leave served as a powerful reminder of the transformation I had undergone. They might feel a surge of anger, a pang of hurt, or a wave of embarrassment. It no longer held any significance. I had reached my limit of conforming to their expectations. The following day, I received a call from Grace. "How did it go?" she inquired, skipping the formalities. I chuckled, reclining against the kitchen counter.
Just as you would picture it.
"They're absolutely livid," Lauren's sulking, "and Mom is likely plotting her next move to reel me back in with some guilt trip." Grace emitted a sudden snort. "Allow her the opportunity to give it a go. Now, you possess a strong backbone, and I'm here to ensure it remains exactly where it should be." I smiled, appreciating her steadfast support. "Thank you, Grace. I truly mean it. You have been my unwavering support throughout this journey." "Anytime," she said, her voice taking on a gentle tone. "So, what comes next for you? So, you're no longer in the role of the family fixer, huh?" The question had been swirling in my thoughts ever since that intense confrontation. What comes next? For years, I dedicated countless hours and immense effort to seeking my family's approval, striving to make them happy. With that weight lifted, the horizons seemed limitless and somewhat daunting. "I'm not quite sure at this moment," I confessed. "However, I believe the choice is ultimately mine to make. Not those individuals. No one else. It's just me." "It seems like the beginning of something truly incredible," Grace remarked, and I could sense the joy radiating through her voice. In the weeks that followed, I began to implement small changes, each one resonating with significance in its own unique manner. I've transformed my living room, replacing the hand-me-down furniture from my parents with pieces that truly reflect my personal style. Weekends were filled with adventures as I delved into local cafes and parks, activities I had always intended to pursue but never found the time for. So, I began journaling, capturing my thoughts and dreams freely, without the influence of anyone else's opinions. Every tiny step seemed to bring back a piece of who I truly am. I was completely unaware that I had lost. One evening, I settled in with my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had created to organize the trip. The canceled reservations loomed before me, yet I felt no twinge of regret. Instead, a powerful wave of determination washed over me. That money was intended for a unique, unforgettable experience, and I was determined not to let it slip away. With the spreadsheet closed, I swiftly opened a new browser tab and typed in solo travel ideas. Just a few weeks following my parents' return, I decided to embark on a solo adventure to Italy. The itinerary had shifted from what I originally envisioned, and it had transcended the need to prove anything at this stage. This was meant for me. It's an opportunity to embrace my freedom and prioritize my own needs at last. As soon as my feet touched the ground in Rome, a wave of exhilaration and anxiety washed over me. Having never traveled solo before, the moment I exited the airport and entered the vibrant city, I felt a surge of certainty that I had made the right choice. Picture this: days spent wandering through cobblestone streets, where every corner reveals ancient ruins that tell stories of the past. And let's not forget the delightful meals enjoyed at charming little cafes, each bite a new adventure. With no schedule in place and no one else to think about, the freedom was palpable. It was just me, embracing the freedom to pursue whatever my heart desired. On a sunny afternoon, perched on the iconic Spanish steps with a delicious gelato in hand, I decided to take out the journal I had brought along for this memorable moment. For years, I documented my aspirations, yet those dreams were consistently intertwined with the desire to please others. At this point, the emphasis began to change. Discover the exciting journey of learning a new language. Launch your very own small business venture. Embark on a journey to explore at least 5 more countries. The list expanded, with each goal embodying the life I aspired to build, rather than the one I was anticipated to lead. On my final evening in Florence, I enjoyed a meal at a charming, family-owned restaurant with a stunning view of the Arno River. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Casting vibrant shades of orange and pink across the sky, a profound sense of tranquility washed over me. This journey was not merely a getaway, it marked a significant turning point. After years of seeking my family's approval, I found myself thousands of miles away, where I came to a significant realization. I had no use for it. I was sufficient, exactly as I stood. Upon my return home, my parents made another attempt to connect, this time employing gentler tones and thoughtfully crafted messages. One text from my mom read, "Hope you had a nice trip. Perhaps we can have a conversation soon?" For a brief moment, I found myself fixated on the message, my phone resting quietly in my hand before I finally set it down. It was perfectly fine that I wasn't prepared to respond. This time, it's going to unfold exactly how I want it. Unpacking my suitcase and arranging my souvenirs on the shelves filled me with a deep sense of pride. A week after I got back from my trip, my mom called me. This time, I responded. "Hi, Violet," she began, her voice carrying a gentle warmth. "How did your trip go?" "It was truly amazing," I responded, maintaining a calm tone. "That's good to hear," she remarked, taking a moment as if to find the perfect words. "We've been reflecting deeply on the events that transpired. It's possible that we didn't manage the situation as well as we could have." The revelation caught me off guard, but I wasn't about to let her slip away that easily. "Poorly? You took my place on a trip that I organized and funded, and you didn't even bother to ask me first. That doesn't even begin to cover it." "I know," she said softly. "Your father, and I had no idea just how deeply this would affect you." So, I turned to Lauren and asked, "Does she feel guilty as well, or is she still pointing fingers at me for ruining her vacation?" My mom confessed that she's feeling upset. However, it seems she realizes that there were better ways to manage the situation. With a deep sigh, I leaned against the counter. "Mom, this was more than just the trip. It's been years of prioritizing her needs while I'm left to manage the aftermath. I've decided to stop doing it." After a brief pause, she acknowledged, "I understand. We're on a mission to improve. We definitely want to keep you with us." Her words pulled at a hidden part of me, yet I had gained the wisdom to ensure that guilt wouldn't steer my decisions. "That's great to hear," I remarked. "However, it will require more than just words to resolve this issue. What I'm looking for is genuine effort, not merely words of apology." She promised that you will. "We understand your need for space, but we sincerely hope you'll welcome us back in the future." Following the call, a whirlwind of emotions surged within me. There was a sense of relief as they finally recognized their behavior, yet a lingering skepticism about whether real change would follow. As I settled in with my journal that evening, a significant realization struck me. It wasn't my responsibility to determine if they changed or not. In the months that followed, I maintained my boundaries with unwavering resolve. I answered their calls and texts when it suited me, but I didn't make any extra effort to resolve issues or ease tensions. I shifted my attention to crafting the life I envisioned. I've finally taken the plunge and signed up for a photography class, a dream I've held onto for so long but never found the time or energy to pursue. I became a member of a local hiking group and have begun organizing my upcoming solo adventure. With every step I took, it was as if I was reclaiming another piece of my identity. As I settled into my porch chair, the vibrant hues of the sunset painted the sky, and it struck me just how much I had journeyed to reach this moment. I wasn't the kind of person who went out of my way for those who failed to value me. I was a person who recognized my worth, established clear boundaries, and confidently advocated for what I deserved. I experienced a profound sense of freedom,